What's up, YouTube? I just got done watching the 2025 NBA draft first round, and I'm sure a lot of you guys did as well. Wanted to come on here and talk about my winners in the 2025 NBA draft first round only. Like I said, they do this day two thing now, where the second round is like a separate day from the first round, sort of like the NFL does it. Not really a big fan of this like this way. I think they just need to speed up the process and do both rounds in one day. But anyways, uh, let's just get straight into it right now. My first winner is the San Antonio Spurs. The reason I have San Antonio Spurs as winners is because they selected Dylan Harper, who would be probably the number one overall pick in a lot of drafts. They also selected Carter Bryant with the 14th overall pick, who I had mocked in that range, but to see him go 14 to a team like the Spurs, who's already ready to win now, I think that's, it was a no brainer pick, honestly, as well as Dylan Harper was. These were two pretty easy picks for the Spurs to make, but I will give them credit because you saw teams like Brooklyn just absolutely stink it up in the draft. I think the Brooklyn Nets had like 5 first round picks. I only really liked one of them, which is kind of crazy. The Brooklyn Nets really, I was not a fan of their draft tonight. But the San Antonio Spurs, man, Dylan Harper, I think, it's sort of a weird loaded backcourt in San Antonio right now. Obviously, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. You still got like Devin Vassell. Like that's a pretty loaded room. They have one of the deeper rosters in the league, as I'm looking at right now. Uh, but the thing with these guards in San Antonio, none of them are really elite shooters. They kind of do like all the same thing. They're very, very much like slashing point guards. And sort of can work that mid range like Fox and Harper. And then Stephon Castle hasn't really developed a jump shot at all yet. But one of the better young defenders in the league, and is a very great slashing point guard as well. So I don't know. It's sort of a weird fit, but I feel like you had to select Dylan Harper because he was the best player available. Now maybe you give like I don't know. This makes me feel like De'Aaron Fox is not the long term answer for a point guard next to Victor Wembanyama in the future. Uh, Depending on how Dylan Harper pans out, obviously, but I think I'm more intrigued of a Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle backcourt of the future than I am with a De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle backcourt in the future. I think Fox is only like 27 years old and he's a proven star in the league. So I know it sounds crazy, but I think Dylan Harper honestly has more potential than De'Aaron Fox. I think he's going to be better than what Fox has ever been. I think Fox has sort of hit his peak. He's only a one-time All-Star. I know he should probably have more All-Stars than that. And he's, had seasons where he's averaged like 28 points per game. Like, I know the type of player De'Aaron Fox is. He's a big time player. Led the Sacramento Kings, who are a terrible organization, to, their first playoff berth in I don't know how long. But, man, I just think Dylan Harper is going to be more than that. I really do. But as of right now, I think they're definitely going to coexist. I'm mostly talking about long term. Like, I don't know if Fox is really there for the long term like I did before they traded for him. But man, but let's talk about Carter Bryant a little bit. This is a guy coming out of Arizona. He's a solid 3-and-D player coming out of Arizona. I thought, his perfect fits for me were with Chicago, Portland. But I didn't really think about San Antonio, honestly. None of my mocks had Carter Bryant sort of being there at 14. I sort of always had him in like the 10 to 13 range. Never really thought about him on the Spurs, but like thinking about it now, I really love this fit. And the San Antonio Spurs, man, looking at their roster, they are stacked. De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, Carter Bryant, and Harrison Barnes. This is a very, very deep team. And if I was going to buy stock on any team to improve more than they were last season, or sorry, if I was to choose a team to improve off of what they were last season, it would definitely be the San Antonio Spurs, man. I think, they're ready to win now, and I would be shocked if they weren't a playoff lock. Like, this team is insane. I think Victor Wembanyama could be a top 5 player as soon as next season, and De'Aaron Fox is going to give you that usual all-star production. Dylan Harper, will see, sort of the minutes he gets in his rookie season, and Stephon Castle, man, one of the best young players in this league. Devin Vassell, is he going to come off the bench? I think he probably might. Carter Bryant probably has a legitimate chance at starting. Honestly, I think more than people expect. I expect Harrison Barnes to probably be the day one starter, but I mean, if Carter Bryant produces like I think he could right away, I think he's one of the more NBA ready players. And I think he might be able to start at the three eventually, as soon as his rookie season. Honestly, like I think Harrison Barnes is a vet. He's a solid NBA player, but Carter Bryant, man, I think he's one of the best ready now players of this draft. So moving on, that's San Antonio Spurs are definitely my first winner for sure. Next up, we got the Phoenix Suns selecting Kaman Malawach with the 10th overall pick. Sorry, he basically fell into their lap. And they also pulled off a draft night trade for Mark Williams. Mark Williams, that's if he passes his physical, because we all know that he was traded to the Lakers and failed his physical. So we sort of got to wait on that. But as of right now, the Phoenix Suns definitely solved their big problem. They were having, Jusuf Nurkic and Nick Richards playing the five for them last year, which is absolutely ridiculous when you got Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal on your team. But Malawach gives, the Phoenix Suns the elite rim protection that they need, and Mark Williams gives them that good pick and roll and solid rebounding. If you guys don't know about Mark Williams, he's really a double-double machine for Charlotte. That's sort of what he's been. It's always just been the health with him, but, if he could stay healthy, man, he's a really, really good NBA player. And then came in Malawach. I was really surprised that the Toronto Raptors didn't select him with the 9th overall pick because, he's exactly what the Toronto Raptors need, is that elite rim protection, the solid rebounding. I was very surprised to see him not be a Toronto Raptor. But Toronto Raptors selecting Colin Murray-Boyles was also a great pick. He's probably the second best defender in this class after Cooper Flagg. But, man, the Phoenix Suns, man, they really do have talent, and I think people are not giving them credit. I don't think they're a playoff team in the Western Conference, but maybe in the East I think they would. Like, just looking at the roster, it's still pretty talented, and obviously they're not done making moves this offseason. But you got Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Bradley Beal, Kaman Malawach, Mark Williams, Grayson Allen, and Ryan Dunn. Like, this is not a terrible team. Like, I don't think they're going to be, one of the worst teams in the league. Like, I think they'll be a competitive team next season. Maybe they can get off that Bradley Beal contract, but he does have a no-trade clause. But, man, it's sort of a weird loaded guard room with Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, who sort of all do the same thing. So it's kind of weird. They need to move off one of them. If you can't move off Bradley Beal, man, like, do you move off of Devin Booker because you can get the most return from him? Or what can you get from a Jalen Green who's still only 23 years old? Like, Phoenix Suns have a lot to do this offseason, but I really like the way they're starting. I thought they got a decent return for Kevin Durant, and then you follow it up a couple of days later selecting Kaman Malawach at the 10th overall pick, and you trade for Mark Williams. I like the start that the Phoenix Suns are getting to this offseason. But anyways, my next winner, I got the Utah Jazz. Being able to select Ace Bailey, who is probably the third best player in this draft after Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper. Being able to select Ace Bailey with the 5th overall pick, I think that's tremendous value. And they also selected Walter Clayton Jr. with the 18th overall pick. If you know anything about Walter Clayton Jr., you know that he's an absolute bucket. And if you watch March Madness, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This guy, big time player. They compare him to like Jamal Murray, just hitting big shots. Like, this guy is a tough shot maker. And, the Utah Jazz, the Utah Jazz are one of the only teams to me that desperately need like a blue chip prospect. And they got that with Ace Bailey. Like, I know seeing the NBA the NBA lottery, a lot of Utah Jazz fans were pissed because they wanted, a top 3 pick to be able to select a Cooper Flagg, a Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey. They were pissed when they found out they got the 5th overall pick. But now in hindsight, you selected a top 3 player who you probably wanted with the 5th overall pick. So I think Utah Jazz fans are very happy. There was, some clips going around that Ace Bailey's not too happy to be a Utah Jazz player. So we'll see. But I think, thinking about it, there was reports that he wants to be the guy. That's why he didn't want to go to a team like Philly where they already have established stars like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. So he wants to be the guy. I think Utah is the perfect place for that. They don't really have a guy right now. Maybe Lauri Markkanen, but he sort of had a down year. Like, I think Ace Bailey can go here and, sort of be that guy. And Utah has a, quietly deep roster. And selecting Walter Clayton Jr. I thought was a home run to even add to this depth on this roster. But Utah, man, they sort of have a weird loaded guard room right now. They have Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Isaiah Collier, Jordan Clarkson, and now you add Walter Clayton Jr. to that mix. I expect sort of the older guards on here. I know Colin Sexton is not that old, but compared to these other guards, I think Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson maybe get traded just to free up some room for playing time with Walter Clayton Jr. coming in and Isaiah Collier. I think in year 2 and Keontae George in year 3. Just giving them some time and give them consistent minutes. I think it's time to definitely move off of Jordan Clarkson. He's getting up there in age. Doesn't really fit the timeline of this team. But I think Walter Clayton Jr., man, he's NBA ready. I think he can provide consistent scoring off the bench for this team. Sort of like a Peyton Pritchard was for the Boston Celtics. Obviously, the Jazz aren't going to be winning anytime soon, like the Boston Celtics at least. So he's not really going to fill that Peyton Pritchard role on like a contender. But eventually, man, I think that's what Walter Clayton Jr. can be when the Jazz start winning. Sort of just, that six man. I don't think he's ever going to be a star like lead guard. I could be wrong about that. But I project him more as like a six man, sort of like a Peyton Pritchard, if that makes sense. Or maybe even like a Tyler Hero in his 6 man of the year season. I think he can develop into something like that. And I think, not even develop, I think he's ready to do that now. He's just on the Jazz. So he probably, he's probably going to come off the bench. I don't think he's better than Keontae George. Isaiah Collier, I think he could fight for that spot right there with Isaiah Collier. Walter Clayton at the 2, actually thinking about it, wouldn't be too bad. Maybe he can be that star, like starting guard. Not on a good team though. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I don't think Walter Clayton Jr. to me. I don't think he's sort of that type of player in the NBA at least. I think he's more of a 6 man. I think that's his perfect role in the NBA. But anyways, for my my second to last winner, we got the Miami Heat being able to select Kasparas Giannakis with the 20th overall pick. I thought Kasparas Giannakis should have been a lottery pick, and to see him fall all the way to 20 to a perfect fit with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are a team that desperately need an actual point guard, and I think Kasparas Giannakis is one of the best passers and playmakers in this entire draft. So he fits, the Miami Heat tremendously and gives them exactly what they need. And I think he has potential to be the steal of this draft. I mean, I think he can be, their starting point guard right away. I think he's that good. He's certainly better than the point guards they have on this roster. Davion Mitchell is solid, but I think he's, a rotational piece. I think he'd be best as a rotational piece, not your starting, point guard, at least on a good team. And then Terry Rozier has fallen off tremendously. So, if you got a lineup of Kasparas, Giannakis, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, and then maybe a Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware, I think that's a pretty solid starting lineup. Then you bring Davion Mitchell, Jaime Jaquez off the bench. I think this is a pretty talented roster, and I really like this pick for the Miami Heat, and I don't think they're done making moves. Shams reported today that they're interested in Jonathan Kuminga, so we'll see. We'll see if Jonathan Kuminga could make his way to Miami this offseason. But, Miami Heat, I like what they're doing. I really do. I really like this pick. Next up, we got the New Orleans Pelicans. This is my final team on here. I debated putting them on here because thinking about it, I don't know if I like the fits, but I like the players they drafted. So I'm assuming, some players that are currently on their roster may not be on their roster just because of who they, drafted. But I don't know if that makes sense. But they drafted Jeremiah Fears with the 7th overall pick, and they selected Derek Queen with the 13th overall pick. I think Derek Queen with the 13th overall pick is an absolute steal. And then Jeremiah Fears, the reason I was surprised by it is because they just traded for Jordan Poole, and I think they're very similar in terms of play style. So maybe Jordan Poole is not there for the long term, or maybe they bring Fears off the bench. But the thing with the New Orleans Pelicans, I don't like what they did to move up for the 13th overall pick. I like Derek Queen as a player, but they moved from 13 to 23, and they added an unprotected 2026 first with the swap between Milwaukee and the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't know if I would do that. The 2026 unprotected first, if the Milwaukee Bucks trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, that could legitimately be a number 1 overall pick or at least a top 5 overall pick. So I'm not sure if I would move up 10 spots. I don't think it's worth it to move up 10 spots and give up a potential, future top 5 pick. So I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. But a lot of buckets on this team if you're the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, Jordan Poole, Jeremiah Fears, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and Derek Queen. That is a very talented team that can get you buckets whenever. I do think Derek Queen and Zion Williamson is a bit of an odd fit, but it's a fun fit for sure. Like a post player, post playmaker who can sort of, throw lobs while he's in the post. To a Zion Williamson, who's Zion Williamson, one of the funnest players in the league, in my opinion. I think it's going to be fun. Not sure about the fit, but in terms of the talent that was drafted, I have to put them as winners for sure. But that's pretty much going to do it for my winners in the 2025 NBA draft. Let me know what you guys think. Who were your guys' winners? Did I leave anybody off? I think the Sacramento Kings could also be a potential winner, trading up to select Nick Clifford. They didn't even have a first round pick, but they traded into the first round with OKC, I believe, with the 25th overall pick. I'm just going off the top of my head right now. I'm not sure if that's accurate. If it was the 25th overall pick, someone let me know down below. But that's going to do it for the rest of this video. Let me know what you guys think, like I said, down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.